I wanted to show you something cool. I've got a spreadsheet that I'm figuring out some game design values for a game, and the equations are going to get a little bit complex. They're not at the moment, but I thought when I'm doing these equations, I want to be able to kind of test them, unit test them, in fact. So I created a Excel spreadsheet called tallies test, and against this spreadsheet, I will run a module that puts in test values and then checks that they're correct. So I've gone into the developer tab and I go to Visual Basic, and I've created a tallies module which has functions relating to tallying up something in my game design. I've also got a run test module, which is actually the ability to run these tests that I'm creating, and a couple more supplementary classes that I'll discuss in a second. So here's my run test module, and if I were to go, should we just tallies test, do that. So if I were to run my run test module with a breakpoint, my tests variable up here is set to a new instance of my test set class. So my test set class is not run yet, but it has an initialization constructor. So if I go and step into that, and here it is, there's my test set class, and on initialization, it's going to instantiate a thing called a debug service, which is one of the other classes I've made. Now, if I step over this, of course, it's now going to run the run all tests method on the test set class that I just instantiated, and here it is. And you see a lot of lines here. Actually, let me just stop this. Just do one. This is one of the unit tests that I've created for my tallying module, and I actually pass it a debug service that was instantiated on the creation of my test set class. So let me try it again. Just save that. If I run this, I step into this function, I go and instantiate that debug service, I then go and run the all tests method, and then I have a debug service. You can see it down here. Here it is. Debug service is filled with my debug service class, and then if I step into my testing function, you can see that it takes a parameter of debug service, which is a debug service class. Now I have a variable that I'm going to assign a worksheet to, and that's the tallies test worksheet that I just showed you. Here it is, tallies test. And my equation is just taking the previous cell's value and then decaying it by a certain other reference cell. So that reference cell here is actually A1. So I'm just putting that in as test data. And if I step over that, like that, you'll actually see that on the Excel spreadsheet, it's actually put my test data in. And then the next part of my function is that it needs the previous cell's value in order to decay it. So I'm just setting A2's cell value to 1. Step over that, and you'll see that 2 gets put in there at some point. Well, that's strange. Okay, well, I think it's supposed to have done that, but in memory it would have done it anyway, because you can see the value. I don't know what's doing there. And then I'm going to call my actual tally module, or the tally function in my module. So that function is actually one that I can use here. So if I do tally and do Control-Shift-A, I'll get my little things again. So that's my module I'm calling. And then if I go and step into this, it's actually going to run my code. And here it's running my code. And basically it just takes the previous cell value from the reference cell, it goes back by one cell, and then if it's greater than or equal to 1, it'll decay the value. Here we go. It's decaying the value. Now the output value of this function will be 0.8, and I make sure that that's the case by assigning it to the output of the function. And now this was me running my tally module. I've actually got the actual result here, which is 0.8, and so my assertion is that the actual result will equal 0.8. Now this debug service that I newed up earlier has an assert function, so let's just go through to that whilst we're here. And the assert function just simply says, I've got some private value assertions made. I'm going to increase it by 1. And then if the condition of my assertion is true, then I'm going to say that it's a passed assertion. So if I step over that, this one does pass. And so now we've got 2 private values. Let's see, here they are. They're both set to 1. I'll come back out of this function now. So if I go step over, now we've got to the end of my test function, and we're now running this in the test set module. We run the test, and now we're going to display all the assertions that were made in that test. So if I just step into that, I pressed the wrong button there, but anyway, display assertions in my debug service class simply outputs a message box. Here it is, with all the bits and bobs of assertions made in past. So this is cool because now if I want to do multiple tests, if I just copy and paste this test a couple of times, it could be many different equations in there. Now if I run this, it's done all of these tests. All the assertions and passes have been put into that debug services values. And now as I display the assertion, it'll actually say that there's 5 tests and there's 5 passes. And of course, if I make this not pass, if I, for example, put this as an expected value of 6, and just remove these again, whoops, and now I run it, you'll see that the passes is 0 out of 1 assertion made. And you can actually see now the value has been put in. I don't know what that was. Cool, I think that's everything I wanted to show you.